This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome back to another sunrise safari here on the Djuma property, Sabi Sands. Just stopped here at the Djuma Dam Cam. I believe there was some buffalo here this morning. So we're going to do a quick circle around the dam and see which way they crossed out. It's always lovely to catch up with them and see if anything's following them. We had some unexpected rain last night, so everything is very fresh this morning. Got woken up to some heavy rain on the roof in the early hours of the morning, which is quite unusual for this time of year. But it's given us a clean slate this morning on the roads. It'll make tracking a lot easier and just gives the bush a bit of fresh energy in it. Listen to these beautiful sounds of the morning as they bring the bush alive. Well, my name is David Hancock, and on camera we have Alex this morning, and we're going to be working together, seeing what we can find for you guys. We're going to carry on our circle of the dam, see where the trucks go, what we pick up, and while we do that, let's send you over to Rowan at Ngala.
Good morning everyone and welcome to andBeyond Ngala. My name's Rowan, and then behind the camera we've got Dull. What we had there was just the head of a hyena, and it's been poking up every now and then watching us, then looking around, but just as they came to us the head went down. So we are in the eastern part. We've actually been waiting for the sunrise or the sun to come up, and it is popping up behind the cloud, but the cloud bank is just getting thicker and thicker and thicker, so we might still wait a while. But as you can see there's the head of the hyena just in front of all the birch starlings and some of the hornbills. And you just see the ears popping up. So we decided to start our day here to see if there's any tracks of the Birmingham Pride coming back from the east, but so far not yet, which means we do not really have a plan for this morning. So what we're going to do is just end up driving around, see if we can find fresh tracks of literally anything, and then we'll take it from there. That hyena has not lifted its head again yet, so you just see the ears. Every now and then there's a little bit of a sound, a little bit of, there he is, heads up. There's a tiny sound that wakes him up every now and then. A little bit to the left, other side. Tough to find, we are quite a way off, but there you can see the head of the hyena. Don't know what he heard. All we've been hearing this morning are southern ground hornbills. So we had a tiny bit of rain, about 2.5 milliliters, but it only came down for about 2 hours, so it's going to be a little bit tougher seeing what tracks there are, because we can't really see the nighttime, the nocturnal tracks. Majority of it would have been washed away, but we know, I mean, if any of the tracks are on top of the rain, then we know it's walked here after 5, which is quite nice. A little head of the hyena just watching us. Big ears, very alert, very aware of what's going on around it. funny, wherever you seem to go, there's always a spurfowl or Franklin in the way. That one looks like a Swainson spurfowl. You can actually hear one croaking just a little bit to our left. But incredible sunrise, beautiful cloud bank coming out. The colors are amazing. Still just waiting for the sun to pop its head out. I think today might be relatively warm, and I don't think it doesn't look like it's going to rain again. I mean, where we are, it's quite clear. Just we've got the cloud bank stretching all along the horizon on both eastern and western side. That looks nice, doesn't it? Okay, so I think we'll let hyena be for now. Go a little bit further south and then start heading west from here, just to see if we can find any tracks. Even Landeka is saying the clouds are looking fantastic. I agree. What do you think, Odie? Let's see what's on the river. Leave the hyena here. No, it's been a very quiet morning, no sounds really, just the southern ground hornbills. There was one impala ratting, and the Swainson spurfowl. Okay, lots of fresh wildebeest poo around here. No fresh tracks yet. We haven't seen any leopard or lion tracks or wild dog tracks or cheetah tracks. So we'll just keep going along the river and see what else we can find. But beautiful morning, as you can see. It's quite nice, the smell, I must admit. Everything smells very, very fresh. I mean, we didn't get a lot of rain, but we got a lot of rain over a short period. 2.5 milliliters in about an hour and a half. So this morning, waking up, it sounded very, very loud on the tin roof. But then you walk out your door and you can actually say, oh, it's not too bad. Still waiting for the sun to pop out just above the cloud bank, and it's literally this bank of clouds just gotten thicker and thicker and thicker, and it's just blocking out the sun the entire time. So even though you can see I'm just in a fleece this morning, not the rain jacket, so it's not that cold just yet, but it might actually get a little bit cooler later. I was talking about the croaking bird a little bit earlier, the Swainson spurfowl, and if you can. And they're the funniest things ever. They often stand on a high rise like that and just shout. Oh, that bird. You'll see it shaking off its feathers every now and then. Very red in the face as well. But they make such a noise. So yeah, that's the Swainson spurfowl. Okay, we're going to watch him for a little while. See if he shouts for us. But for now, Tristan wants to just say good morning with the sunrise.
I do want to say good morning with the sunrise, but the sun has gone behind this cloud that BK has described to me as a dragon trying to swallow something. BK? Really? Is that what you think? Yeah? So, okay. Since it's the kids' portion of the drive, we can delve into a little bit of believing in things and cloud watching, and so that will be our dragon cloud this morning. Now, of course, it's nice to have all the kids with us, and remember, kids, that you can ask any questions that you want, and you must just do so on kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. BK? I like your cloud. The cloud, nice imagination, that's for sure. I also need to tell you that my name is Tristan, and on camera I've got BK, as I just mentioned. It's lovely to have you guys all with us this morning. And we are parked off at Sydney's Dam, watching the dam and the beautiful sunrise that we just had. Not because of these lovely impalas and because of the fact that we wanted to be at Sydney's Dam this morning. My plan was actually to go east, but I thought I'd just shoot up to the northern boundary just to check if there's anything happening. We know we had leopard tracks crossing in here yesterday morning, so I just wanted to see if there was any sign. But as we got up to this boundary, the guys have just told me that there's wild dogs that are not far from here. They're just behind the dam wall of Sydney's Dam, on the Manyeleti boundary, and I'm hoping that they're going to come our way. It sounds like they are moving southwards, so that's really good news for us, because it means that they're moving towards where we are, and hopefully we're going to see them coming over that dam wall and maybe even chasing some of these impalas that we see here. So it's a super exciting thing to be patient for, and in the wise words of one of our former guides that worked here, Brent Leo Smith, patience is your strongest tool in your arsenal as a guide. And so we will be patient and put our little patience pants on as we wait for these wild dogs in the hope that they come this way. Now, of course, wild dogs being wild dogs, they can change direction at any point, and they can end up going back into the Manyeleti, or they can go deeper into Buffelshoek. It's not necessarily that they're going to come our way. It's not like lions or leopards that generally have a direction and they stick to it. These guys are a lot more kind of erratic, is the word for it, and they move around all over the place. So we'll just have to be patient and wait and see which way they go. But it's an exciting start to the day, that's for sure. David, who's 14 years old, it's a very interesting question, David. I mean, I think part of it is in terms of trackers and making them... Oh, look at that. Our impala is stotting. That's very cool. So just showing off that he's fit and healthy. I think with trackers, you know, a lot of the really good ones start very young and not necessarily tracking things like lions and leopards from a young age. Often what they track is the cattle or the herd that the family has as young boys, and they start to already learn the way of looking at tracks and understanding the behavior of an animal. And when it comes to tracking, so much of tracking is having a bit of intuition, and so not only being able to spot that individual track that you're following, but understanding that an animal and the specific animal that you're tracking is moving in a certain way and has a certain behavior that they like to practice. So hypothetically, let's say we're tracking a cheetah and it's walking through an area and we know there's going to be a big clearing coming up. We know instinctively that cheetah generally will go to the clearing to go and check what's going on there. So already, even though you're following the track, you're knowing that if you lose the track, that's where you're going to be heading. That's the direction you're going to be taking, because you know that cheetah generally will head in those directions. And so when you do your loop, if you've lost the track, you generally pick it up in that direction. Or if it's something like a leopard and it's walking and it's winter, you know that maybe it might be heading for water. And if there's a pan close by, again, your intuition will tell you that that's where it's going to go. And often that leads you to choosing the right pathways, where you then see the tracks much easier. So I think that's part of it. I think also it's the fact that there is a deep, deep love for tracking in the really good ones. The guys that are amazingly good have a huge passion for what they do, and they really love the ability to track, and so they will spend hours out there practicing and trying to hone their craft, and the time that they spend out there means that they gain lots and lots of experience, and that's how they'll eventually be able to figure out tracks better than others. So, you know, I think that's part of it, and then I think also just, you know, the experience of being out here for day in, day out, even if they're not on foot tracking, but being in a vehicle and watching the animal, learning their behavior, that all helps to become a better tracker. And knowing what to look for, that's the other thing, is spending time with others that are really, really decent trackers, and them helping you to tell you what you should be looking out for when you're tracking and how to go about a track. I think that's also very important. So it's a skill and it's an art form, and like I say, the really, really good guys, when you watch them on tracks, it's a humbling experience, because you or any of us will often think, oh, we'll be able to see tracks, and there are certain times when we track animals where it is incredibly easy. They walk down the road on a soft, beautiful sand, and they leave these big footprints, and it really is like following big beacons. But there's other times where, let's say, a lion will walk across an open clearing like this, and there'll be very little sign other than maybe just a toe or a little piece of the back pad, and these guys are able to pick it up just because they know this is the direction it's heading, this is how far the next step should be, and where to look for that next step, and what to look for, and then go from there. It's really incredible to watch these guys work, and it's an amazing thing. So, tracking is something that I wish a lot of people could be exposed to proper trackers. They certainly would learn a lot from these guys, and like I say, you end up coming away with this appreciation for a skill set that is as old as mankind, and something that is unfortunately becoming lesser and lesser, or it has less importance in our modern world. We use technology so much for things that the art of tracking is a very old kind of way of doing things. What's that walking over the damn wall there, you see? Oh, it's just disappearing behind the damn wall. Something was walking on the damn wall there, but I can't see what it was. It's just disappeared behind it now. On the far left, here. No, it's gone behind. Oh no. It looked like maybe a hyena that was walking there. I wasn't 100% sure. Okay, well, I'm just going to sit here and be patient and just double check and see if whatever it was comes out again, and wait for these dogs. In the meantime, though, I'm going to send you back to David, who's found a big beefy buffalo to show you this morning.
We did manage to catch up with our buffaloes. Wasn't too difficult. Following buffalo tracks is not too hard when there's a few of them. They basically just went north from the dam, and they've gone up a few hundred yards. Doesn't look like this is the herd. It's very tall grass here, and we haven't driven much further on. This looks like a handful of old bulls. The Dugger boys, as we like to call them. That often are a little bit behind the herd, or sometimes on their own altogether. I'm not sure if there was the herd at the dam or just some of the bulls, but nonetheless, lovely to see buffalo this early in the morning. They have all decided to become camera shy, so we are going to work our way around and get a bit of a better shot. Beautiful, clear air this morning. It's lovely after the rains. How the air gets all just completely clear of dust and particles, so the light is just so vibrant. Now we are on a Firebreak Road, right, very bumpy. So Alex is trying to hold himself, and the camera's still that's 10 yards. A Firebreak Road is often very bumpy because its intention is to be a firebreak, so it has to be very straight generally, and it doesn't really care much for contours and selecting the best area to build a road. Instead, it just goes straight, and in doing so, it often goes over soil types that aren't very conducive to roads, so it becomes very bumpy. But we're back on the normal road now. Let me just quickly see what's going to be the best entrance for these buffalo. While we do that, let's send you back over to Tristan with the hyena.
Indeed, we are still with the hyena. It was a hyena. I was right. I just saw its back disappearing over the dam wall, and then it came back over again and is now at the edge of the water. And it's not uncommon to find hyenas milling about close to where wild dogs are. They often follow wild dogs because they know wild dogs make a lot of kills, and therefore they can try and steal it. But it comes at a cost. Wild dogs bully hyenas if they can, and they'll bite them and do all kinds of things to try and keep hyenas at bay. So hyenas got to have a little bit of a brave streak to it in order to tackle wild dogs. And it's heading straight in the direction of where the dogs are. Now, it might have heard the dogs, and that's why it's heading that way. I don't think that the dogs have made a kill or anything like that, because if it had heard the sound of something dying, it would have run there, and it would have gone and tried very quickly to be able to catch up with those dogs to steal that food. So I think it's just kind of maybe listening. You can see it's watching and kind of looking around at the moment, as though it's trying to figure out which way it should actually go. You hear the other hyenas? I wonder if they haven't caught up with some of the dogs. Let's try and get there. We're going to unfortunately have very bad signal between us and where they are. It sounds like they're right at the gate of the Sabi Sands, which is cool. But like I said, I do apologize for the breakup that we're going to have. I'm just going to try and get a little closer to these hyenas that are whooping and going crazy, because that's generally when interacting. Let's just see how we go. That hyena's stopped, so we're just going to go between this quickly. Little Franklin's up there. There's also a leopard calling right here as well. So there's a leopard, there's hyenas going crazy. I wonder if a leopard doesn't have a kill somewhere here and that the hyenas have stolen. Interesting. I'm just going to shoot forward a little bit. Just see if I can see down this fence line. There's definitely something going on. There's a leopard calling right here, as well as hyenas going crazy. Just trying to listen. Serious commotion. It's not the dogs that's caused that. I wonder if there wasn't a kill here and that has been stolen potentially by hyenas, and that's that whooping that we heard. The other hyena that we saw is on the right of this kind of building, behind this building, and they were coming in this direction. So while I try and figure out what's going on and try and maybe see if I can get hold of some of the guys in the Manuleti, let's send you back across to David with the buffalo.
Well, we've just managed to poke our nose in here in a little open area that is rapidly becoming a closed area. Let me just work around this one bush and then we'll have another nice sighting of these buffalo bulls. Now they're busy doing what they do best, and that's eating delicious grass early in the morning. They like to feed during the evening and early hours of the morning. And then as it gets hot and heats up, they will go find some shade and digest. Oh, we've been sitting with them all this time, and now they've decided to mission off. There they are again. Buffalo is busy thrashing away at something. Why is it thrashing? There it is. You see the buffalo over there? Beautiful big bull. He is full of power. Yamador and Anna, you've asked what are buffalo horns made of? And they're made of a material very similar to your fingernails called keratin. Just very dense and very hard keratin. Those two have moved off, but there's one just around the left here, so I'm just going to move the vehicle a little bit so you can see it. So keratin is kind of like hair. Similar to hair, just a lot denser. Molecules are a lot closer together. There's another one. And buffalo horns are made of that same thing. Similar to rhino horn. Who have we got here? A little buffalo friend, a red-billed oxpecker. Busy cleaning the buffalo of parasites and ticks. And also getting a meal along the way. As you can see, this buffalo bull's got very big horns. Those horns are used in defense, in combat, in fighting and protection. And he's also making his way. Well, we might have another look at them. They are lovely to see in this golden morning light. For now, they don't really want to stand still. There's an open patch coming up there, so let's loop around again and see if we can pick them up. I really love buffalo. They're one of my favorite animals out here. What I really love about buffalo is that they are just so strong and fearless. They'll often try and fight against lion if a lion has grabbed a calf or hunted one of their own. Then they'll all sometimes get together and work towards the lion and push it back. They really are tough animals, afraid of very little. Gabriella, age 11, welcome to the show. Thanks for watching. And you've asked a question, what age did the buffalo get their horns? And they get them pretty early. The little stubs start showing in the first year of life. Remember, both the males and the females have horns. Slightly different. The male's horns are a little bit heavier set, a little bit bigger. But the female also have horns that they also use for the same purpose, for self-defense. Yeah, even the little babies, they start getting the little stubs. Even at birth, you can feel the little horn stubs coming out. And then they start growing quite quickly. Well, there's an impenetrable wall of guarri bush here on the right. It's not an area that I would choose to drive. Some sensitive soil types, so we're going to try and... I know there is an open area in the middle of this block. I'm just got to get to it. But if we don't, we did get to see these buffaloes. I'm sure they'll probably pop out again later. Just saw a little crested francolin, but it didn't stick around long. We'll try and find another one. Kaylin, 10 years old. You've asked, how long do buffaloes live for? Now, it depends very much on, out here in the wild, depends very much on the amount of food, the predators. So remember, generally buffaloes don't just go and die of old age like humans do. We out here have a lot of predators and a lot of things that buffalo have to protect against. So I'd say in the wilderness, buffalo on average would live probably around 25 to 30 years. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I've read up to 40 years in captivity, somewhere around that number. So not as long as people, but they do have a good old life. Well, I think we're going to leave those buffalo, carry on, see what else we can find. So let's send you back over to Rowan with a hippo.
We are at Clara Dam, and we actually just stopped because the sun finally popped through the clouds, and it's just such a magnificent light coming onto the watering hole. You can see the water's like glass. The hippos there underneath the tree with the red-billed buffalo weaver's nest on top of it. But yeah, like I said earlier, very quiet, very peaceful morning. A few little grebes swimming around, but otherwise not too much. There's tracks of a male lion coming from here, and they go south and they cut southeast, but I didn't see them on the road that we just came from. Definitely before the rain, so it's easy to see on the road that we just drove, but the one before that, very rocky, so if you crossed anywhere there, we probably would have missed it. I actually have no doubt about that. So yeah, we decided to just park off at Clara Dam, quickly see what the hippos are up to. I think when we were walking, looking at the lion tracks, you could just hear them bellowing. See the little grebe there, or the silhouette. But like I said, the water's like glass, so it's perfect reflection there. Like a little sailboat going to the left. I'm hoping that the hippos might start bellowing again, but it doesn't seem like they want to. Otherwise, nothing here yet or nothing coming down for a drink yet, but I guess it's rather normal with the water. With the rain coming down throughout the night or this morning, you don't really need any animals to come down to drink just yet. A little bit later when it heats up, pretty sure they will come. It wasn't enough rain to actually form a puddle anyway, it's just all soaked into the ground. Laksha wants to know when hippos are most likely to come onto land. Laksha, it's usually nighttime. They'll come out and they feed. So during the day, they'll just stay in the water and not spend too much energy. They'll sleep in the water, and then at night they'll come out. Usually about sunset time, you could spend your afternoon at a watering hole, and hippos will start yawning, opening their mouths, and then they start going out, so they'll go feed at night. Well, that one's halfway out, goes a little bit to the right. No, it just went under, just did a whaling trick. Yeah, so mostly at night they'll come out to feed, and they don't feed too much. They only eat about 30 to 40 kilograms of food, compared to something like an elephant that will eat about 250, 300 kilograms. But they'll spend the entire night feeding and out of the water. Of course, their safety for them would be inside the water. So whenever they feel threatened, they'll come running straight towards this watering hole. They seem to be a bit more active now than in the back. It's quite scary how they disappear. They can go fully submerged and you can't see them at all. A little bit disconcerting. I don't really trust hippos too much. very, very peaceful spot. Lovely hearing all the bird calls for the morning. Okay, so I think from here we're gonna probably go a little bit further west and see if we can pick up on any fresher tracks of anything else. Gia or Jaya, do animals fall ill due to seasonal illnesses like flu? Gia, not something like a cold or flu. What we've noticed though is mange, that would be because of a drought and then followed by too much rain. So I guess that's a little bit seasonal. But not like humans, you know, that gets flu in winter and this and that. So not quite the same thing. The hippos coming out again in the back. A little bit. I don't know what they're doing. Last time we were here, there was a baby hippo. Very big animal. I think a lot of people actually underestimate the size of a hippo because you only see the nostrils and the eyes and the ears. Okay, anyway, we're going to leave the hippos, let them relax in the water for the day, send you back over to Tristan, who's bumbling about, and then we go on our own little bumble.
I am bumbling about. Unfortunately, those dogs interacted with what sounded like a leopard, and they were sawing, and then there was hyenas, and there was the anti-poaching unit, and so, but it all then went into Manuleti, so there's not really much I can do right now. I'm just hanging around because often with dogs, if they steal something or it gets stolen from them, their next thing to do is to go to water, and it's right at Sydney's dam, so I mean, they should then pop over there. So I don't want to go too far in case the dogs come back, or even that leopard comes back. We also had very distant audio, I think, of lions, but I wasn't sure. I know the dam cams picked up lions, so we'll see. It also sounds like Inkanyeni has been found somewhere, or Monzo, one of the two, has been found right far in the northeast of Buffelshoek, so that's interesting as well. But I think the best bet for us is going to be just to hang around this area. It seems like a lot of potential for stuff. You never know what comes out, especially given that the water hole is right there. Much like we saw that hyena kind of emerge over the dam wall, maybe the dogs do the same, maybe, you know, leopard, maybe hyenas come out. It's worth just sitting and waiting for a little bit. It could also mean we see nothing. This is a gamble we take. Unfortunately, a boundary is a boundary, and there's not much we can do about it. So we're going to have to just be patient. But I was thinking last night, you know, we've had this bit of a tough time with leopard, and I wonder if it's not going to be this crazy breaking of the drought at some point where we get multiple leopards in one sighting or interaction with another animal. So maybe that's just out of our reach for now, but it will eventually come our way. We have to think positively at this stage to make sure that we maybe get some sort of luck out of all of this. That's for sure. Alrighty, back to Sydney's dam we go. Zach, here's on your size of the pack. Do we get a couple dog run together or big packs? So it varies. This particular pack that we and the pack that I mean, I've seen bigger packs than that here before. In February, I saw a pack right far on the eastern side of Buffelshoek, and that pack was 20. My memory's not good, but I think it was 26 or 27 in that pack, which is big. It's not the biggest grouping I've seen either. I've seen bigger packs before. In the Kruger, there was a very, very large pack. It used to go on to a lot of our pack called the open pack, and they so Yeah, packs get big. Used to in the past, though. Over 40 used to occur in this to see big. I know somebody that 150 in that area, which is great. Unfortunately, our signal is not very good. I'm just trying to get a little bit of height, so while I try and... David.
Welcome back. Not too much to update here on the animal front. Just left those buffalo. Are now working our way down to the drainage line. Very much in hope of a predator. And speaking of predator, it's not a common sighting, but we did recently see the lesser shined metal pot on the road. And can you take a guess as to how this pot got here? We're just sitting there in the middle of the road. It's got a little bit of gravy left in it, a little bit of saliva, and some massive bite marks that have now rendered this pot completely non-functional. Any guesses as to what predator might have been responsible for this? The clue being how strong your teeth would have to be to bite through metal. And the questions and answers have already come in. Hyena is the answer, of course. What else could it be? What else would eat a pot, a metal pot? I mean, look at those teeth marks. Quite crazy, eh? So, no doubt this came out of our camp last night. There was a pot left outside, maybe near the fire. After some cooking, it didn't get put away, and the hyena came through camp. There were a lot of tracks this morning. Alex and I saw some tracks as we got coffee this morning, and we're wondering what they got hold of, and this is it. So instead of Darby's shoes, because Darby's not here at the moment, they ended up with this pot. So we'll take it back to camp, although I don't think it'll ever work again. Dina, you're saying hyena love to lick a bowl. Well, I think in our case out here, hyenas love to eat a bowl. Bite a bowl. I've seen them bite such random things over the years. Everything from cooler boxes to car tires to kitchen counters to pots. Molly, good morning. You're age 14 and you've asked a question, how are hyena able to get kills from animals like lions? I assume you mean, how can they get the meat off of them? Well, while we talk about that, I just really want to have a look at this beautiful bird, the Zazu bird, doing its performing. A hornbill, often called a Zazu bird, because if you remember the Lion King, that's the bird that looked like Zazu. But back to the question, hyena are often able to steal kills off of larger predators like lion. The reason for this is that they're actually very powerful animals, and they often are in large clans. So, whereas one-on-one they would struggle to fight against a lion, when there's numerous ones of them, they can sometimes overcome and steal that prey, steal the carcass from the lion. Let's just sit and listen to these hornbill as they do their calls for the morning. Well, we are done with the kids show. Thanks kids for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. All now questions are open to all viewers. And there goes our hornbill. That was cool. Always lovely to watch hornbills territorial calling in the morning. They just basically saying, this is my spot. Talking to their friends. You could hear other hornbills going off in the distance. Well, we're going to carry on, see what else we can find. Don't forget to send us in your questions. Remember the hashtag WildEarth. We always love hearing from you. Wheelie Girl, hope I got your name right there. You've asked, was that a territorial call? And yes, that was. Often see hornbill doing a territorial call in the morning like that. The alarm call and their frightened call is quite a lot different. I know we say it's a territorial call. I've noticed the difference between what we just witnessed, which seems a lot more relaxed, as opposed to the more intense territorial call where they lift their wings and almost do a bit of a display with it. So I'm not sure what the difference is between those two. Maybe what we were looking at now is just him saying hello to his friends. Just stopped here in this little drainage line. It would be a lovely spot for something to pop out. I need to move my pot. It's at my feet and I can't push the pedals. Nothing yet down here in this drainage line other than elephant tracks. Let's see, a herd of elephant went through here yesterday. We're not too far from where we had that herd last night. Tristan and I, so more than likely those guys. Remember that female with the crooked tusk? Well, we're going to continue on uphill, out the drainage, keep our eyes up, see what we can find. And while we do that, let's send you back over to Rowan with an update.
We are driving in the Tekwan riverbed. That's one of the tributaries into the Timbavati River. So the Timbavati River is actually behind us. This is the first place I ever got to see a leopard on andBeyond in Ngala. Anyway, so the leopard that we saw was a young male called Leadwood young male. He was about 3 years old, and he was in the tire track. Now, mind you, this was 6 years ago, but he was in the tire track, just almost squeezed in, you know, like cats do, and just at us as we were driving him. And nice to spend an hour just watching this leopard. So he'd roll around in the tire track and then lie on the other side, then look at us again, look at us upside down. Really just a stunning sighting. Okay, so now we are out of the Tekwan drainage line. Not too much happening there. Quite nice and rocky. Yeah, really no fresh tracks of anything here. Like not too many things were walking around after the rain just yet. I was hoping that because we had a bit of rain, we'd start seeing elephants everywhere. We had a few tracks earlier, but no luck yet. No elephants yet. Gabriella asking, when do leopard cubs start to hunt? Gabriella, this is again at I can't give you like a clear age at all, because a lot of leopards will stay with their mothers for about 2.5 to 3 years. But then what happened to us here, also the property next door, Manuleti, sometimes the moms die and then a leopard is forced to hunt a lot earlier. So, you know, they are able to hunt at the age of, I'd say before a year even, but they'll hunt small things like a monitor lizard or a francolin or a baboon even, instead of going for things like impala just yet. So we've had it quite a few times with young male leopards that start hunting, these are just hyena tracks, that start hunting vultures. For instance, our Makoti male, Makoti actually meaning vulture, because his mom died when he was 14 months old. So, you know, a very young still for a leopard to be by itself, yet it is instinctual, and they can survive at that age hunting for themselves. Often also because luckily he had a sibling, so him and his brother used to play with each other a lot, and I think that helps them develop their hunting skills. I think the youngest we saw him kill a vulture, well, it was a vulture baby. It wasn't like the vulture could fly out of the nest, but he was, I think, 6 months old. Still very young. Dorothy Ann asking for any update on the injured Birmingham young male. Dorothy Ann, no update just yet. We will keep you guys updated. If we do find him and we find anything, we will tell you exactly what's happening. As you see, we've not found tracks for him yet, and we haven't seen him yet, but yet if we do, we will show you. There's a lot of hyena tracks everywhere, but nothing else. Seems like they were busy this morning and last night, as they always are. So we've got Nikki and Yapi. They are exploring the northern part of the reserve, seeing if they can find any tracks of wild dogs. Evan wants to know if we're okay in a car without glass when there are lines around. Evan, absolutely. I've been here just over 6 years. Sean's been here just over, well, nearly 4 years now. You know, Nicky's been doing this also for about 4 years. Eric's been doing it for nearly 5 years. And all of us are perfectly fine. We see lions at least 2 or 3 times, maybe more times a week. But yeah, Evan, you are perfectly fine in a car without glass. Okay, so we're going to send you back over to Djuma and some elephants.
Welcome back. We've managed to bump into the largest and the biggest that we get out here. And also the wrinkliest by the looks of it. None other than an elephant. Look at that texture. Always love their skin. It's rough, but if you're ever privileged enough to be a part of an operation when an elephant gets darted or moved or gets some medical treatment of some sort or another, then you get to actually touch and feel that skin, and it's a lot softer than you would think. Yes, we're talking about you. I wonder what she's heard. She heard something that piqued her interest. She's right behind you there, Alex, coming to say hello. So much of elephant communication is actually subsonic. That grumbling that we can hear is only on the higher end of the spectrum. The majority of communication being out of our human ears' reach. So who knows what just happened. Nothing we did, we were just talking and she was just chilling. And something got said or she heard something and she got a little bit annoyed. Not in a bad way, just in a typical elephant way. Lily, age 5, welcome. You asked a very interesting question. Is it most dangerous to be in a buffalo, a lion, or an elephant group? Those are 3 animals you asked. Let's move a little bit forward while we chat about it. Sorry, buffalo, elephant, and rhino. Those are the 3. So, which group or which herd would be the most dangerous to be in the middle of? Now, I would say elephant. If it's just some old boys hanging around, then they wouldn't be bad. Then I'd probably say buffalo, but if it's some moms like this with some youngsters and you get in the middle of that, then you're asking for big trouble because they're very sensitive animals. And the mothers are extremely protective. like with all animals, as long as you just give them a bit of space, it's generally all okay. Astral, you reckon you're not so sure you'd want to be in any of those herds? No, to be in the middle of any of those herds would be a little bit frightening. That's why we just keep the magical boundary distance, which is about this right now. Sometimes it's a bit closer, sometimes a bit further. But you always just try and find that perfect distance that allows the animal to feel comfortable, not feel threatened. And that magical distance is just something I suppose one picks up over the years of different experiences, getting a bit close. And these elephants will tell you when you're too close. You just kind of get the feel for it. How beautiful to spend this morning with these elephants. So peaceful. And remember, if you're enjoying this, feel free to follow that link on the bottom of the page. Your support is always appreciated. Let's move on up a little bit, Alex. I see there's some effalumps up front there. What was the flying elephant's name? Dumbo. The elephant kind of looks like Dumbo. Ooh, it's having a lovely little dust bath. Watch it for a second, it's dramatic seeing that dust in the sunlight. Look who it is. It's none other than our crooked tusked female. I've seen her 3 days in a row now. Having a lovely little dust bath there. Well, I'm gonna move around a little bit here, see what other elephants are up and about, what else we can pick up. In the meantime, let's send you back over to Ngala with an update.
Right, so we had a buffalo, quite a little bit unrelaxed. So he's just behind the quarry there now, and he had a bit of blood coming down from his right ear. So not too sure what it was. Could have been just a branch or something that he walked or that he ran past. So we don't know what spooked him. But even when we were just driving up, there you can see him, a big boy. Even when we were driving up, he was a little bit unrelaxed with the vehicle. So I don't know what disturbed him this morning. As you can see, very muscular, very big animal. You don't want that running towards you through the bush when you are walking around. So we're not going to try and follow him too much. Just let him go there. They're all alone. No other old buffalo bulls in the area. Just this one by himself, also known as a dugger boy. I don't know if you saw all the mud on the back, because often they go wallow in mud just to cool themselves down. But this one looked a little bit grumpy, so we're not going to follow him anymore. The road, especially where he's going, is a little bit thicker, but then it opens up to the old airship, so we might be able to find him on that side. We'll see now. Yeah, the blood looked rather fresh. I mean, it wasn't dripping anymore, but it was still shining in the light. And I can imagine what happened is it just caught on a branch or something and made a little bit of a wound. I think he would be on the other side now, on the old airship. Some Natal spurfowl in the road. Also quite loud. I think I'm deaf in one ear now. Zachary wants to know, what do buffaloes eat? So Zachary, they are grazers. They live they live on grass. They eat grass like a cow. How much do they eat? Zachary, quite a bit, but not too much. They've got 4-chambered stomachs, which means they digest their food really well. So they eat the grass, they chew, swallow, regurgitate, chew it again. We just call it chewing their cud. Swallow it again, regurgitate, chew it again. So they they basically eat their food about 5 or 6 times over, so they get majority of the nutrients from it. So unlike an elephant, they don't need to keep eating because they're extracting a lot of nutrients from it. There's lots of buffalo poo around here. So if you ever go to a farm, like, you don't touch it with your hands, but open up some cow poo with a stick and see how well digested it is. I see the buffalo crossing the old airship. Let's see if we can find him crossing one more time without getting too close. I don't want him getting grumpy with us advancing too fast. Crested Franklin running on the road. You can see him in the dust. Yes, he's walking very quickly. I think we might just miss him. Also don't want to break the speed limit. Okay, never mind. What we're going to do is send you to David with his herd of elephants at Djuma.
We are still here with the elephant. Name is he sniffing us. We might as well spend a little bit more time with them. They are such majestic animals. See this little youngster on the left, busy munching on some grass. Doing what they do best, eat. The grass doesn't look very tasty, it looks very brown. Coming to the end of the season now. Going to be seeing a lot more browsing of leaves and branches and bark. But still a bit of grass where they can find some sweet grass. Samara, 9 years old. Good morning. You've asked, how do elephants communicate with each other? And they actually communicate very well, and they communicate over very long distances, a lot further than what we can communicate. And they've got very large voice box, I guess you could call it, vocal cords. And I suppose you would call it passages in their forehead there that they create vibrations with, similar to the way we talk through vibration. They also use vibration, and those vibrations, the majority of them are actually a lot lower in frequency than what we can hear. So sometimes we hear a bit of rumbling. Those rumbles can travel very far distances over land. Obviously with their massive ears they can hear very well. And then also they'll communicate with not just the vibrations, but their body language, even their trunks. They use their trunks to greet and to caress youngsters. And then sometimes they'll trumpet and squeal and shriek. Elephants can make very funny sounds, especially when they're excited or scared or anxious. Some very high-pitched sounds. And then of course they also communicate with scent and smell and hormones that give a certain smell. For example, when females are ready to reproduce, they'll emit and give off a certain smell that the males can smell and identify. So they communicate in a variety of different ways. Butterfly, you've noticed that elephants seem to eat most of the day. Every time we see them, they seem to be eating. That's correct. They do eat the majority of the day. The books will tell you that they eat for around 20 hours of the day. Even when they're moving or when they're going from one spot to another, they often stop and eat along the way. They have massive bodies that they have to constantly feed. To keep themselves going, they have to constantly eat. And of course, because they eat vegetation and plant material, they have to eat a lot of it to derive enough energy, to get enough energy to sustain themselves. So we put our nose in here on the left so that we can see them. They've all now disappeared behind the trees. Hey, on the left. Like sweets, you've asked an interesting question. Do elephants have tonsils, and can they get tonsillitis like we do? I have no idea. Having a little wee there. It's more like a waterfall than a wee. I'm not sure if they have tonsils. I wouldn't be surprised if they have some sort of some sort of a pouch at the back there that can catch unwanted things like what our tonsils do, but I don't doubt that they have the same sort of setup. Gonna have to look that up. Do elephants have tonsils? They do have lots of teeth. Big molars that get replaced throughout their lives. 6 sets of teeth in total throughout their life. And those teeth wear down over the years. And they get replaced by new ones. Sometimes in the bush, if you're walking on elephant tracks, you'll actually find broken pieces of teeth of their molars. Their last set coming through in their 50s. And thereafter, no more. So towards the end of their life, they don't really have teeth left. Simpiwe, you've asked, why do elephants walk so slowly? They were just giving some rumblings now. I was going to see if we could hear it. I don't know if you heard that on camera, talking about the communication. Simpiwe, you've asked, why do they walk so slowly? They do appear to walk slowly, but it's actually a little bit of a... what would the word be? It's a little bit of a misnomer. They don't actually walk as slowly as you think. When you track elephants on foot, they move a lot faster than what you would expect. At a normal pace through the bush, humans walk at around 5 to 7 kilometers an hour, whereas elephants on a slow pace will walk at about 8 kilometers an hour, and that's just feeding. So when they just walk, pick a branch, walk a bit more, have some grass, walk a bit more. So even that is faster. They've got large strides. And when they're going somewhere, like moving to water, then it's even faster. It's around 12 kilometers an hour if they're on their way to an area. So even with very fresh elephant tracks, you've really got to hustle to catch up to them. They walk a lot faster than they appear. Ooh, do you hear that bird? It's just up here. That very shrieky sound. There it goes. It's a lilac-breasted roller. Very beautiful bird. Unfortunately, we didn't get to have a look at it. It flew off, but we did hear its rasping call. Those two drongos just to the left in that quarry, just above that elephant's head that you're busy looking at, Alex.
Quite see if you got that.
Yeah, it's landed on that branch right in front of the elephant's face. Look at this fork-tailed drongo there. Looks like a pair of them that are hanging out with these elephant. And they are master insect hunters, often catching insect on the wing in midair. You often see them around elephant or rhino or other herbivores that move through. As these elephants are feeding and disturbing trees and grasses, then insects kind of get shaken out, and the drongos are capitalizing on that, making a meal out of it. So they often accompany larger animals. Even on bushwalks, when you're walking, I've many times had drongo flying around my feet, catching the insects that I disturb as I walk. Carolyn, you've asked, how do we tell an elephant's age? There's no hard and fast rule. Even with the very young ones, you can kind of only guesstimate an approximate age. Obviously, once they've reached sexual maturity, they don't get too much bigger. So it's difficult to be exact. They don't have birth certificates that we can read. But we can go off of different factors, such as their overall size, their tusks, how worn down their tusks are. With exceptionally old bulls, you'll often see a lot of wear in their skin, especially their ears. They appear to be tattered and quite worn. Their heads get very large, and sometimes their temples and their foreheads get sunken. Their spine protrudes. There's many different things that one can look at. It just takes time and experience, having looked at many different elephants, and that allows you to get a good estimate of their age. But like I say, it can never really be very precise, just within a few years. Unless you are an expert in elephant dentistry, then that's kind of how they are more specific. So when elephants get darted, anesthetized for specific reasons, whether for medical treatment or research or movement, then experts in the field will actually look at their molars, their teeth, and in doing so they can get very accurate with their ages. But of course, it would be very difficult for me to go and open an elephant's mouth and have a look at its teeth. I don't think it would fare too well for me. Well, there go the grey giants disappearing into the bushes. It's been lovely spending time with them. We're going to move on. So let's send you over to Tristan, who has got a carcass.
I do have a carcass. It's the one at Simamili Dam. Unfortunately, the dogs, leopard, all the stuff that was happening around the gate is north of the boundary and not moving. Apparently the dogs went further into Manyeleti again. So we decided to come and investigate whether the carcass had been in any way eaten or had been touched, or something had tried to come and figure out if they could get to it, or I was just, I don't know, hoping for anything really. But as you can see, the only thing that's eating it is terrapins at this stage. A few terrapins that are swimming around, and they themselves are not going to be able to consume a carcass like this. I suspect what's going to happen eventually is it's going to smell enough that it'll attract hyenas and they'll come and get it at some point. Whether that's today or tomorrow, I'm not quite sure, but I thought it was a kind of worthwhile exercise just to come and see if potentially anything was here trying to actually get to it. It would be a really cool sighting to watch if hyenas or lions or a leopard tried to swim to get to it and pulled it out. But it seems like it's, well, not really being touched at this stage, and it definitely means there's not a crocodile that's taken it, because that would have been consumed by now. Angie, a carcass is a dead animal. Yeah, so it is basically an animal that has died. You call it a carcass, and things that eat off of that. At the moment, like I say, it's just these little terrapins that you see heads moving around. The problem with this is that the skin of this impala is probably too tough for those terrapins, and so while they're biting at it trying to get some sort of nutrition out of it, they're struggling to actually open it up. They also probably look at that. I was about to say, I wonder if they're not using it much like they use a hippo's head, in that they want to try and actually sit on top of it and sun themselves. The problem is that the water or the coat is so slippery, I don't think they can actually get up there. which is crazy. You see, look, they're almost like they're trying to climb on top of it. They do it with hippos. They climb on their heads. But they have a very different sort of shape where it's much easier to get up. I think with the fur on this particular impala is making it slippery, and so they actually can't climb on it, which is a shame.
Well, we've just left the elephant. Gonna bumble on and see what else we can find. Sorry for the issues there. I think there's probably an issue with Tristan's feed, but hopefully it gets rectified soon. Still lots of moisture in the bush. The grass still has some moisture on it from the rain. Looks like there was a decent amount of rain up here. Some puddles in the road and some runoff. Very unseasonal late rain. Just going to give the bush maybe a little bit more green for a couple weeks longer. Zachary, you've asked a question. I think I heard it right. Which animals growl the loudest? I suppose which animals make the loudest sound? As far as growls go, it would probably be a lion. Not really a growl, but their call, their long calls at night can be heard many kilometers. Sometimes 5, sometimes around 7 kilometers in this region. Obviously we've got a lot of trees and vegetation that will block the noise. But in areas where it's more open, they can be heard for a long distance. When I was in Namibia doing some travels, I spoke to a lion researcher that was researching those desert lions that you get in Namibia. And he was telling me how lion calls can be heard upwards of 30 to 35 kilometers by other lions. And he realized this because he had GPS monitoring on a couple different lions. And he was sitting with a specific male, and about 35 kilometers away there was the other male, part of the coalition, this male's brother. And he saw it on his GPS screen, and the male that he was with started roaring, and instantly the little blip on his GPS got up and started walking in his direction. So that proved that his brother had heard his call at 35 kilometers away. Of course that's in the Namibian wilderness, and it's like a desert, so sound will travel a lot further there. Quite amazing though to think that they can communicate that far. I would sure love to see some lion, keeping our eyes out for tracks. And speaking of tracking, let's send you over to Rowan and see what he's following.
At the moment, I am not following anything. We've not oh, gee whiz, look at that. See this impala? It looks like something got its leg. Ooh. Don't know what happened there. It looks like quite a bad one. Looks like it's still leaking blood. Ah, left. The one E from the quarry. Go more. That one. Okay, so it is putting on it. Not too sure what that's from, but it looks rather fresh. Yeah, it is fresh. Maybe a male impala. Got its horns stuck in the young. So I just looking along, just trying to load the research. It doesn't look impressed. Only got started making it. So keep up it. Put different pressure. I think it's because rather that she's struck to walk. Of course, this would now be easy for I'm sure that heard of the.
Well, unfortunately, it sounds like as on our side, so we're trying to just figure out where we can get decent signal, but it's so interesting to be listening. I managed to speak to the guys in the Manatee. They went to where we spoke to, or where we saw them, and they said they had a leopard move away there, but there's also was a lioness's cubs being chased. The cub lioness at the bottom.
Sorry about that. We really seem to be battling with those feeds. But I'm still here. And I just want to look at this beautiful tree. This is my favorite tree that you get in the bush. A massive leadwood tree. Absolutely love these trees, the texture and the way they grow. Now this one's dead. Been standing here a long time. It's a lot older than what I am. And they're so hard that termites don't really do much to them, so it'll be standing here dead for many, many years. This tree is decades old and it'll be here for a few more decades, I'm sure. I love to think what this tree has experienced if trees could talk. How many leopard have been up this tree? How many vultures have roosted in this tree for the night? Perhaps a few impalas have been devoured on the top of this tree. Also one of my favorite trees to climb. I never grew out of it. I've always loved climbing trees. Look up on the top branches, you will see different coloration, especially there on the right, of lichen. And Rosie, I think you're seeing them as well, the markings. Those are actually an organism called a lichen. That one's a bit hard to see. If you follow that branch down, Alex, just below that fork of that branch you were on, there's another nice one. Not easy to see from this distance, but yeah, you got it there right at the bottom of the screen. Yeah, that's it. A lichen is actually two organisms, not one. It's a fungus and an algae. Living together, the fungus is able to adhere and cling to the bark of the tree, but it doesn't actually photosynthesize. It doesn't have the ability to turn sunlight into food, into sugar, which an algae can do. So the algae benefits by having the fungus's support and the ability to cling to the tree, and the fungus has the benefit of getting food from the algae. So it's a lovely little symbiotic relationship. Or was it a mutualistic relationship? I can't remember. Space Dollar. You've asked, how long can a leadwood tree live for? Let's answer to that. I can't be precise, but it is many, many years. I'd say 1,000 years, maybe. Some of these monster leadwood trees. I've seen some huge ones up in Savuti area of Botswana. They say they grow 1 millimeter in diameter per annum, so their growth rings are 1 millimeter apart. Which is quite amazing if you think about some of these large trees. That means by that standard of measurement that a meter wide tree would be 1,000 years old if there's 1,000 millimeters in a meter. Obviously that's not exact, because I would imagine that the growth rings would vary depending on area, climate. Drier areas would be a bit slower growing, whereas a leadwood along a river might be a bit faster growing. So it's not a hard and a fast rule, but hundreds of years would be a very safe estimate with leadwood. And then in being so hard and tough, they will stand just as long after they've died. Well, let's carry on, see what else we can find. Nancy, you've asked, is the leadwood dead, or is the core still viable? Is your question. There's another vehicle in front, also out on a morning game drive. Morning. Good, and you, sir? Good. Nancy, that leadwood is dead. And just to clarify, even in the living ones, the core is actually always dead. The heartwood of any tree is, well, not any tree, there are some succulent types of trees that are a little bit different, but the majority of our trees out here, the core, the inside itself, the heartwood, is actually dead. It's just a support structure, that's its function. Every year as those growth rings expand, a little bit dies on the inside. The living part of the tree, the stem of the tree or the trunk of the tree, is actually a very thin layer that's called the inner cambium. It's right between the heartwood that's dead and the outer cambium, the bark that's dead. I'll actually show you a very good example. You want to quickly have a look at that Birchall starling while we chat about our tree. It's just such a vibrant, beautiful color. Don't want to pass up this opportunity. It's lovely seeing these beautiful birds in the sunlight. The hues and colors in their feathers are just incredible. When it goes into the shade, it gets a lot duller. in the sun it just glistens. Looks like it's on the hunt for some food. These birds love insects. Looking for something to munch in the grass. And Avi saying it's so pretty in the sun. I agree, that's why we had a quick look at it. It's a very common bird, yet so striking and beautiful. These birds are very common in picnic spots, especially like in the Kruger National Park, at picnic spots where there's restaurants and constant food. They adapt very quickly to leftovers. As soon as you get up from your table, then there's 50 starlings that jump on a table and finish off your crumbs. But Nancy, that tree we were talking about, just clarifying how the structure of the tree is living and dead. It's a very thin layer of bark on the inside that we were saying, the inner cambium, that's the living part. There's a tree just up ahead of us I just wanted to quickly have a look at that kind of demonstrates the difference in layers.
This one here.
If we look at this tree, let me go a little bit closer, you can see it. Get on the other side of the sun. This tree is dead. It was a knob thorn, but because it's dead, it's peeling a little bit, and you can actually see what I was talking about. Let me quickly unplug here. So remember what we were saying, the heartwood is always dead on these trees. It's just a support structure. This is the heartwood. And then the outer cambium, the bark, is also dead. And on a living tree, there's a small little layer in between the inner cambium. That's actually the living part of the tree that allows the nutrients to transfer up and down through the tree. So a lot less living in the trunk of the tree than what one would actually think. And of course the roots and the leaves are also alive. Well, we're just coming down to Buffelshoek Dam. Let's cruise down there and see if there's anything at the water. Looks like there was a tree that fell over recently. The last time I was out here at Djuma, this tree was still standing, and now it's flat. We're going to head down to the dam, have a quick look around. In the meantime, let's send you back over to Tristan, see what he's up to.
Well, at this stage, Dave, I'm trying to just find some sort of signal, because I'm starting to get highly irritable this morning between signal and the animals. It's been a frustrating morning. Just everything seems to be just happening just out of reach, but close enough that we can hear it, which is probably the most frustrating part of what's going on. I'm not sure how much you got of my last update before we lost signal again, but essentially I was saying that the dogs, the hyenas actually didn't fight with the dogs ran past, but the hyenas were fighting with a lioness with a 4-month-old cub, and the cub has been treed by the hyenas, and the lioness is at the bottom trying to keep the hyenas kind of from going anywhere near there. and they're not sure which female it is. So the guys in Manuleti just sent me a message now to say that they had it. They've sent me a photo of the cub, but I don't have signal enough to actually download the photo while I'm out. But it's an interesting kind of dynamic that's taken place. Then they found a leopard also not far from their crossing, so going deeper into Manuleti. So, everything's just walking away from us rather than anywhere near us at this stage, but that's the way it goes. And we got smashed by a hairy caterpillar that went down my shirt as well, so it's been a delightful morning, really. I'm hoping that at some point we catch a break and things change. The dogs, obviously, when they heard the interaction between that lion and those hyenas, they've run straight north, deep into Manuleti now. And the lioness is, like I say, stationary. The leopard is going north, and hyenas, well, they're just being hyenas and sitting around the area. So I don't think we're going to have much luck with anything coming our way. I was hoping once they kind of finish that the lioness might come down and grab her cub and just march as quickly as she could away from that area and maybe down our way. But if the cub's still up in the tree and it's too scared to come down, she's going to stay there the whole day until that cub comes down. She's not going to leave it on its own, especially a small young cub like that. She's going to try her best to keep that cub as safe as possible. So I think we're going to just probably go somewhere else. Unfortunately, I wanted to head quite far west into Simambili, but for some reason this morning the signal's just not being good at all. It was much better 2 days ago. I don't know if it's the low-lying cloud today or the rain that's causing some sort of an issue, but it's just making life a little bit tricky to go that way. So we're not going to head too much further to the west. In fact, we've made our way pretty much back east to Djuma. James, no, I haven't heard if Tiani's been seen close to Simambili. The last update I got on her is that her and Nzatini were messing around in Elephant Plains camp. They were walking around the lodge, on the roofs, doing all kinds of nonsense there. But I'm not sure. I mean, like I said, I'm in contact with the Simambili guys, but they're obviously not out all the time. It's such a weird system at the moment. Even just driving around here is so weird. This is an area where there's a high vehicle density in this western side of the northern block, where you've got Arathusa and Elephant Plains and all kinds of things, and there's a lot of cars, and so it's so odd driving here now because there's no vehicle tracks but mine. There's nobody else driving around, which means that it's difficult to know where everybody is, because unless they're seen from the camp, we're not really getting much of an update as to where things are. The Simambili guys are going out in the mornings and checking as much as they can for us and helping us, but which is really, really nice of them. They certainly didn't have to do that, but they are. But the rest of the properties, the guys aren't getting out that much, and so updates are few and far between about where certain animals are and what they're up to. That makes life quite tricky. So yeah. Anyway, all right, I'm going to send you across to David. It sounds like he's gotten back to a waterhole, and he has a big burly hippo sitting in the water.
We have a big hippo indeed. We just got down here to Buffelshoek Dam. Very peaceful. Some hippos snorting and blowing off steam. This water looks a bit chilly, but I don't know. I wonder how cold it actually is. Yeah, I'm gonna go feel it. It's not too bad. I'd give it a swim. Not with the hippo in it though. Never a good idea to swim in water sources in Africa that you don't know. Whether a hippo or a crocodile could be lurking. And also never a good idea to stand too close, except in a spot that you can see. Many people have come short in water sources like this. Never seen a crocodile here, but could definitely be. They're so sneaky, they'll lie just below the surface of the water, wait for unsuspecting animals to come down and drink. I remember the last time I was here at Djuma, one of the drives, that crocodile launched out at the WildEarth on the dam cam, concealed in that little pool. A very good example of how mischievous they can be, how cunning they can be. Some lovely bird life here along the side of the dam. Three-banded plover in the foreground. See those little grebes or still hanging around. Let's just sit and listen for a couple minutes to this beautiful silence. Rosie, you reckon it sounds peaceful? I agree. Very peaceful place to sit. Look at this tree here on the right hand side. We were chatting about it a bit earlier when we were on our way down here. This is the one that's fallen over. Last time I was here, it was standing, and now it's fallen down. It's interesting. This tree was, when it was alive before it fell down, still seems to have a little bit of green on it, but it won't be lasting long. It was a little ecosystem for lots of little things, birds and insects and the like. Now that it's fallen down, it's kind of changed its purpose. Now it's become an ecosystem for different species, little aquatic species that are utilizing the cover that it provides. I see those little grebes always amongst the branches there. Obviously feels safe. Would be a great place for them to make their little floating nest. So the tree's purpose has changed from those beautiful hippo sounds. The tree's purpose has now changed to providing cover and shelter for aquatic species, and it'll lie there for many, many years still. If you look just to the right, we have a visitor in the form of an Egyptian goose. just behind the tree. You're going to just barely see it. Hopefully it takes a couple steps forward. Oh, it's taking a run forward in a flight. I was hoping it would march into view slowly. Instead it took a flight across the dam. Beautiful birds here this morning. And speaking of birds, let's see what beautiful blue bird Tristan has found.
We have found a beautiful Burchell's starling. It was sitting so nicely for us in the sun and posing beautifully, and then, of course, you know, birds being birds, they fly and move away, and then it landed on the road next to us. It was like perfectly eye level and the most beautiful light. It was shimmering and shining and looking so wonderful, and then decided to move, unfortunately. But that's the way it goes. So we are now heading southwards in the hope that we can find some track somewhere to indicate that there is an animal coming our way rather than going the opposite way. At this stage, though, there's been very little sign of anything fresh. Everything has got rain on top of it, so nothing super good to follow. There's a few hyena tracks on this road that I've seen, but I haven't seen anything else of note. And the same on Simambili, there was no tracks to indicate anything had been moving around, just a few hyenas, but again, most of it had been rained on. So the one nice thing about the rain is that it really does give you kind of a nice time frame as to when something happened. We know that it rained obviously in the early hours of this morning, and so any tracks that are on top of that we know are fairly good. And anything before that will show signs of being rained on, and therefore not be something that we have to waste too much time on. But I'm curious to know who this lioness is that's got this 4-month-old cub. I wonder if it's not the Shimungwe lioness. It'd be interesting to know if it's her. She's a lioness. A lot of you won't know the Shimungwe lions, but they come from the western Sabi Sands, and through a series of bad luck and various other things, the pride was whittled down to 3 young individuals. So it was 2 young females and a young male, and they then pushed from that western area when the last adult lioness was killed, and they came up into this part of the world and then into the Manyeleti. So they kind of milled about, and then the male, I don't know what happened to him. He just kind of stopped being with the females, and then there were 2 females for a while, and now it's just down to the last remaining lioness. And it's so sad at the moment. Part of me is incredibly sad because, you know, Shimungwe Pride was prior to being Shimungwe Pride was the Castleton Pride, and has a lot of history from the central parts of the Sabi Sand, from the Singita area, and then they went, like I say, west and became the Shimungwe Lions. And then, you know, to think that there's only one of them left is sad. And then the same with the Salalas, a long history in that pride, and to think that there's only one of the Salalas. Rusty, I hate your brakes so much at the moment. I mean, I have to spray them down. They're squeaking a lot, and so every bird and anything that's a little bit shy runs away when I try and brake. I'm going to have to wash your brakes, Rusty. You're squeaking too much. But there were some dwarf mongoose that were running around here on my right-hand side. Yeah, Rusty's decided enough. I can't deal with all these animals taunting me from the boundaries. I'm going to just squeak and make a noise and be temperamental. There they come, they're coming out now. And so what I was saying is that, you know, the Solala is also down to 1. But in the Solala's case, at least, there is the, you know, the fact that the Nsevu or Kambula Pride, whatever you want to call it, and the Mangen Pride are all descendants of the Solalas. They were all born to the Solala Pride. Basically. The Mangens were born to the Solala Pride, and then the Nsevu Pride is the daughters of the Mangen Pride. It's a bit complicated, but they at least are descendants of the Salalas. But the actual Salala pride that was, central to the Sabi Sands is also kind of just down to its last female. And, in an area like this that's so predator-rich with so many, particularly hyenas, it's very difficult for a lone lioness to raise cubs. She has a tough time, and that means, those two prides are a little bit in danger. But wouldn't it just be the most magical stories if both the Shimunga and the Salala lionesses were able to have, a litter of, let's say, 4 females and keep them alive to the point where they, start to rebuild that pride? I think it would be absolutely amazing. Anyway, sorry, Dwarf Mongoose, I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about something that you would be very afraid of, instead of paying you guys the attention you deserve. Anyway, you can see they're busy foraging. That's what they're doing at the moment. So a little bit of scratching going on every now and then. They've got nice big claws. And so what they do is they use these very sophisticated little noses of theirs to sniff things out. Particularly at this time of the year, there's still a few insects and grubs that are underneath the surface of the soil. And so when they scratch around, they can find those things, and then they're able to feed off them. And it's amazing to watch these guys and meerkats as well dig for food. Incredible sense of smell. When I was with the meerkats end of last year in Botswana, we would sit with them, and they start their morning, they sun themselves, and then off they go foraging, and they just nose to the ground, smell something, and then they start digging. And it was incredible to see just how far down these meerkats would dig in order to find things. So you can imagine that their sense of hearing and sense of smell must be unbelievable, to be able to hear or smell whatever that little protein source is, 5-6 inches underground. It's pretty incredible to witness them doing it. And these guys are no different, they do a very similar thing. Flat cats, I think you and maybe a lot of others will have these guys as their favorite small carnivore, or smallest carnivore. We don't obviously see a lot of small carnivores in the way of servals and caracals, and if you want to consider those as small carnivores. But these guys, I think, have a soft spot for a lot of people just because of their antics and the fact that they have a very tight-knit social bond, and there's lots of them, and they're generally kind of playing and moving around, and they're busy, which is why they're interesting to watch. Anything that is active, generally people are drawn to. If they just sleep and don't do much, then people kind of get a little bit bored of them. But these guys seem like they're always up to no good. But you can see how close they're coming. That's the shadow of BK that's there. So it gives you an idea of just how close this dwarf mongoose is. It's in fact, what do you reckon, BK? 3 meters, 4 meters? 3 meters, I would say, from the car, which is crazy because dwarf mongoose generally don't come close like this. Well, certainly not this close. They normally... have you got an itchy head? What are you doing? I suspect it's actually scent marking, is what it's doing. I think this is a marking of territory. A lot of your animals have glands. There we go, you see? It's just urinated. They have glands on their faces, preorbital glands close to the eyes, and that is a way that they can mark territory. So when you see them, now you're attacking the grass. I think you're making your point. I'm pretty sure any other mongoose that comes here is going to know this is your area. Or have you found something else you want? I don't know if you can hear them. They're talking to each other as well. This has got to be one of the best mongoose sightings I've ever had. You never normally get them this close. It's definitely marking scent there. That's what it's doing. It's not a food thing. You're a busy little mongoose, aren't you? But they're just coming from all directions now. They literally are surrounding this sort of right side of the car. I've got this one that is very, very close, which is the closest of all of them. And then there's another 2 little ones that have come up from the front side of the car as well. You guys have made my morning. You've turned my frustrating morning into a good one.
It's behind us.
It's behind us. There's another two just here, BK. Even closer on the front side. They've just run across there. What you guys doing? Interestingly enough, in 2011, very, very close to where we are right now, there was a group of dwarf mongoose that were ridiculously relaxed. You could drive up and there was a fallen over stump, and they'd run up the fallen over stump, which would be almost at your eye level, and then they would just look at you from the same similar distance like this. And I wonder if these aren't descendants from that particular grouping. Be interesting to know. I mean, we're probably about 30 meters from where that stump was. It's just inside Arethusa, so I wonder if maybe this is a similar group, and that's why they're so relaxed. They just got used to vehicles, but normally they're not as accommodating as this. I mean, they come out and they play, but not as close as this. I think it'd be such a cool thing to habituate a group of dwarf mongoose to you on foot and then just follow them around all day, see what they get up to. I think there'd be all kinds of shenanigans that goes on. Problem is when they go into the grass, because you're not going to see much when they walk in the grass. They require to get them in more open clearings than anything else. That's why the meerkats are much easier. They're obviously slightly larger, but also they tend to hang around in drier, more arid areas, and so you don't have to worry so much about long grass like this to be able to follow them around. You guys are super cute. BK, they like your little shadow area. They like sitting where BK's shadow goes. Susie, just before I answer you, if you look at this one that's running now, BK, towards the back of the car, it's been obviously groomed. If you look at the back of its head, all its fur is matted. That one there, yeah. Its fur is all matted on the back of its head, so it's obviously received a good grooming this morning. You see that? Silly little thing. Maybe it looks like quite a young one, so I wonder if maybe mom is not looking after it. But the difference between these guys and a ferret, well, ferrets bigger, much bigger than what these guys are. Also, don't get these guys and ferrets occurring in the same area or the same geographic location. But essentially a very similar structure to them. So very similar body shape, habits in terms of, foraging. There are so many of you. Where are you all coming from? Can you hear them? So if you can hear what sounds almost like a little chirping bird sound, that's them. This is so cool. You guys are very talkative this morning. Andrea, you say this is super special. It is indeed. It's a very, very cool sighting. Like I say, it's probably my best dwarf mongoose sighting I think I've ever had. They generally don't come this close, and certainly don't be as, well, they're never as talkative at this distance. You guys are full of beans this morning. This is amazing. They've obviously decided it's time to go and forage for food because they're all starting to leave us now and head away. You're going to stand on your back legs and off you go. That's cool. Sarah, I have no idea. There's literally, as I sit here, just more and more starting to pile out. Actually, I can see where they're coming from. They're coming from our back behind us here, BK. There's a old mound behind this electricity pole that they're coming out of. So that's obviously where they live, in those holes there, in that old mound. And that's where they've started, and they're just coming behind our vehicle and kind of foraging for food in this general area that's close by. But it's amazing how when you sit here, all of a sudden more and more of them just start to appear and kind of surround you, and they end up doing their thing. But like I say, generally not as close as this. So this is very, very special to have them this close, and to hear them is even better, because a lot of the time you hear them only when you kind of drive in amongst them and they have a little panic alarm and they kind of all sort of scatter out, and that's all you really hear. So to have a situation where we can be as close, where we can actually hear them basically just talking to one another in these soft little sort of communications that they're making, is a very, very special thing. It's not something you get to see or hear all the time. Off they go. There's also an elephant here somewhere. I don't know exactly where it is, but it is here. I can hear it tearing grass and trees, and here's another one here. So it's a bit of the sublime and the ridiculous. We've got, this tiny little dwarf mongoose and some big elephant somewhere close by. So we'll try and figure out if we can find the elephant. It sounds like it's just inside Arathusa, but while we do that, it sounds like David is investigating a mound, which I'm sure dwarf mongoose often like to use to live in.
Well, we did just stop and have a look at this beautiful termite mound. I'm going to walk over to it. Most interested in a bit of a vantage point. There's some beautiful marula trees around here in this drainage line. And I think you can all guess what I'm looking for. There's an impala down, but I don't think you'll be able to see it. He's just making a strange. Always a good spot to just spend a couple minutes when you're on the search of things. All of a sudden you can see for miles around. After being one of the explorers that came through these regions many moons ago, the bush was still the bush, the same sounds, the same calls. Imagine being the first person to climb some of these trees in these mounds. Nothing too exciting on this termite mound. Just a burrow here on the front side, but it seems to be inactive. But no doubt some warthog were using it recently. These mounds don't stay active all the time. Well, termite mounds do, but the burrows will often get utilized for a couple of weeks and then they'll get left again. I think it probably has to do with the parasite buildup that you get from a family of smelly warthogs. You can very easily see when a termite mound has an active burrow in it, because there's always lots of flies and things at the mouth. Well, nothing too exciting to see from the termite mound. It did feel cool to stand up there though and get a better view. You drive this road time and time again and you always wonder, oh, what's over there on the other side? and because we're not doing bushwalks at the moment, I'm starting to miss being off the vehicle and in the field, so nice to just have a quick jump off and look. We're going to cruise on down the cut line. It's nice and open. Allows us a good field of view. Karen, you've asked, am I the tallest guide? I don't know. Good chance, I suppose. I'm sure there's lots of other presenters that come and go that are also on the upper air limit. Perhaps the naughtiest guide, though. I'll take that title. Gavi from Josie. Good to hear from you. I hope you are doing well in the big smoke. I'm actually starting to miss Johannesburg. I haven't been there in so long. Alex is looking at me like I'm crazy about it. I'd be missing it out here, but it's fun for us common folk out here from the bushes to enjoy going to the city. Get to see a movie, get popcorn, go shopping, walk around those massive malls, get on the Goud train. Actually missing it a little bit. Looking forward to a little holiday. You've asked, completely forgot what you asked. What was the question, Alex? Sorry, my mind took me back to jamming in the city. Months of snakes hibernation. Sorry, I was reminiscing very deeply there. I completely forgot about it. Speaking of snakes hibernating, they don't necessarily hibernate all the time. Sometimes in very cold portions of our winter they will hibernate and they'll slow down dramatically. But there's no like hard and fast rule. It's not like a bear that'll go into hibernation for certain months and then emerge again. On a warm day in the winter you'll see snakes out and about again. We've got a few puff adders, a couple of puff adders in camp now. Even though it's been very cold nights, they're still active during the day. So they definitely slow down in the winter times, and no doubt during cold spells will actually hibernate, but can very quickly get mobile again, get out on a sunny day and catch some warmth and some rays. Still on the search, and I'm not the only one. Let's head over to Tristan, who's trying to find the next big or small creature.
I am, Dave, and I don't even want to talk about the day that we're having right now, because I've just bumped into the guys that were behind us on the road, and they said they could see us driving down the road, and as we were driving on the road, they said we went and they came behind us, and Shadulu popped out behind us with an impala kill and dragged it across the road behind us. Is that her in the road now? What is in the road in front of us? It's that elephant dung. Can't see. It's not moving, so it can't be anything. There's something in the road there. The elephant dung. So she dragged an impala from Djuma across into Arathusa behind us. So now what we're trying to do is we're trying to find where she dragged it, because apparently she's dragged it not too far in and hasn't hoisted it, and she was looking around apparently at trees and stuff. So we're going to try and see if we can get it's not going to be a good view, but we're going to try and see if we can get some view of this cat. just goes to sometimes the bush. Shadulu fam, you say you've just screamed. Well, don't scream just yet, because you never know. Maybe we can get a view of her. Maybe she comes back on. Maybe she goes and fetches Kara. You know, there's all kinds of things that can happen. Just trying to figure out where exactly it was that they saw her. I'm trying to find the drag mark and the tire tracks. But yeah, not ideal at all. These things happen though. It's the way the bush goes, and it just goes to show you what fine margins you work with out here. You know, we 5 minutes after, and we would have maybe bumped into her on the road, dragging the carcass across the road. You know, 5 minutes later, and we didn't bump into that car and had no idea that she's even here. So, you know, things happen, and it takes a bit of a, you know, time to sometimes see things and find things. Exactly, everything happens for a reason. We wouldn't have had our dwarf mongoose sighting, and I'm pretty chuffed with that sighting, so that's all good. But I'm just trying to see where exactly this happened, because they say it's Arathusa, not Simambili, so we're getting very close to the cut line between the two now. I've actually forgot to ask them. I was so irritated that she had done it after we'd gone past. I forgot to ask them how far up. But I'm sure we'll find it. I mean, a drag mark is generally fairly easy to see, particularly across a big road like this. So you should be able to find it. And they said they turned around on the road. I actually know exactly where it is. I think north of this little drainage line. But we'll try and kind of see if we can get some sort of a view. She really enjoys this drainage section. It's funny because Shadow used to love it too. This is exactly the area I was talking about yesterday morning, where it's so thick and dense and difficult to negotiate. Alright, I'm going to try and quickly see if I can get a view of her. It's somewhere just up in front here. While I do that, I'm going to send you across to a warthog. I don't know who's got it, but one of our esteemed gentlemen, I'm sure, is with one.
We have found some shallow pigs. If you're wondering why I say shallow pig, that's often what they get called out here. We love our languages in South Africa, having 11 languages, official languages in our country, so we like to play between the languages. It keeps us occupied during lockdown and load shedding. And the Afrikaans language, which I absolutely love, I love swearing in it, calls these warthogs vlakvarks. A vlakvark, and the direct translation of that is shallow pig. So every now and then these guys get called shallow pigs. Not to be confused with luistervark, which is an iron pig, which is actually a porcupine. Shallow pigs and iron pigs. I haven't actually watched the new Lion King that's been redone. Have you watched it, Alex? Did they use bush pig or warthog for Pumbaa?
I used the warthog.
Nice.
Which was actually a very good presentation.
I've heard that it was a very good presentation of Pumbaa in the Lion King. When I was a young warthog.
Let's sing that to camera.
I just need to moan. Fortunately, not many Timones around here. easier to find a bit further north. Sarah, you're enjoying this family of warthogs. So are we. They are fun to watch. Often labelled as the ugliest creatures we get out here. Shame, it's a little bit unfair. But I suppose they take it gracefully. Where I live in Hoedspruit, they become very tame. It's like our national mascot, our town mascot. You find them in all the shopping centres. The other day one was trying to get into the bottle store. Yeah. Alex is saying he's seen them trying to get in, pick and pay. It's quite funny. They've really got no care for humans. They just become so habituated to people. They're always around the house. If you leave the back gate open, then they'll come and grab your rubbish. And my dog, his name's Sharka, absolutely hates them. He always chases them and barks at them. Or it's more like a one-sided chase because, as you know, a big male warthog has very little to fear, perhaps a very large leopard or a lion, but other than that, they are very tough animals, so a dog's not going to do too much to them. And we actually had a couple encounters. That dog, a couple years ago, he got sliced open quite badly by a warthog, but he recovered from that. If you look at those bottom teeth as it chews, you'll see they're very sharp as they bounce down, those little incisors. Look at those bottom needle-like teeth. When it closes its mouth, they wear on those top tusks. The top tusks are quite dull, they're more used for digging and whatnot. Those bottom tusks are the sharp ones. Those are the ones that cause damage. They're razor sharp as they keep sharpening against the top ones. And my dog got a good taste of that. He's got a really good scar on his inner thigh. And then he's gotten knocked again last week. Yes, I think it got, he hurt one of his ribs. He's been lying in the room all week. I'm going to have to phone my wife and ask him how he's doing. Ask her how he's doing. She's pretty slow to learn. Beautiful. Neva, you've asked, is there a hierarchy in the warthog group? Not in this little group. Obviously as an adult. And younger ones, you'll get big boars coming through, and sometimes boars will clash based on size, especially around breeding time. I was saying the other day, they had a big fight in the parking lot outside Pick and Pay. But this is just a mom and her babies, her little piglets. And there goes their mate, the impala. Often find them together where they benefit from the extra eyes. Mixed species of herbivores will love spending time in these open areas bundled together. So if there's a predator lurking, there's a better chance of it getting spotted.
Yeah, she always tracks for us the private lines coming from the east, but definitely I saw that male went off to them all and west, so yeah, he's just not west of
them. Sash, is that the name? You've asked why do warthogs have long hairs or whiskers? They do have pretty long hairs, eh? Suppose it's got different purposes, from protection to a little bit of cover and warmth. Not that they have too much hair. And the whiskers on their face will assist in feeling, no doubt, connected to nerves as they dig in the ground looking for roots and tubers and things to eat. Very funny looking creatures, aren't they? It's lovely spending time with him. We're going to move on. I hear Tristan is searching for an animal a little bit higher up the food chain, which would no doubt love a snack on our shallow pigs. Let's send you over to him and see how that search is going.
Well, incredibly frustratingly, not going well at all. It's, yeah, I'm afraid we can't see her at all. She's there. If you see, there's a big tall tree here. So there's a dead tree over here, and then there's a tall tree over here. Now, she's at the bottom of that tall tree, but there is, as you can see, no way to see her through all of the bush. We've tried every angle. I've looked with binos. I can't see anything. And it is such a shame, because this is literally, I don't know, about 100 meters south of the Simbambili Arethusa cut line. So had she been 100 meters north of this, we could have gone there. So this morning has been an absolute treat, hasn't it? There's an exercise in terms of trying one's patience and see how you come out of it. But the problem with this is that now that she's got food there, the chance of her moving is almost zero, unless, of course, she's going to go and collect Kara. If Kara's still with her, I don't even know if Kara's still hanging around with her. But if she is, then she'll need to go and fetch Kara wherever Kara is and bring Kara to this meal, which would be our only gap. But Kara could be deep inside Arethusa. She might not be anywhere near our side, in which case she might go away from us rather than towards us. There's no water anywhere close on the Djuma side here. I think the closest water for her, if there's nothing in the drainage line in front of us, would be One-Eyed Pan on Simbambili. So maybe we get her going to water later. But yeah, unfortunately, that is where she is right now. And that is the way things go, I'm afraid. Yeah, not much to it. I'll show you the drag mark quickly so you guys can see what it looks like. So that in future, you can pick up, or if we ever see them, that if you're ever driving yourself around, that you'll know what it is. Where did we see it, BK? I'll try to find it here now. Somewhere in this area. There it is. So 50, yeah, maybe. So there is the drag mark here. You can see it quite clearly on the road going off and into the bush. Maybe she'll take it up a tree this afternoon. That'll be nice. None of these trees are particularly great, though, to be honest with you, for us. None of them have really nice open branches or views. And so it's going to be difficult unless she uses a big tree that I can see now, which is the one, BK, see this one over here? That one would be alright for us. We would be able to see if she put it in those little boughs of that tree and used that. That would be nice. The green thorn is really not going to be nice at all, the torchwood tree. But yeah, that's what a drag mark for a leopard looks like. Shadilu. Why could you not have dragged it the other way or just stayed in Djuma? Why is it that you have to drag it this side? But there's a game viewer coming now, so what I want to try and do is, because there's actually no game viewer there now, I just got told where she was. I want to see exactly where she is, and maybe when the game viewer goes in there, I think it's one of our vehicles, or one of the vehicles from the west. When she goes in there, then we can at least be able to, or he goes in there, we can just see exactly where she's lying, and maybe, just maybe, we can get a view of an ear or something like that, just to confirm. But it's going to be a bit tricky, I think, in order to get it exactly right. So 50, I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, Shadilu's a fair-sized individual. She certainly isn't small, but I don't know if she's the largest. I mean, I haven't seen Tiani for quite some time. I haven't seen Saseka. Who else is there that's around? Sabui. Tricky to know, for sure. Females I struggle with comparing size because of how variable it can be with them. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know is the answer to that. But she's certainly one of the larger ones. She's larger than Tandi and Klalamba, that's for sure. So, you know, she's got a bit of size on them. But the other leopards to the south and to the far west, I'm not 100% sure at all. All right, I'm going to chat to these guys. I'm going to see if they can get in there and see if we can maybe get some sort of a view. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to David, who's looking at a iconic creature from this area with stripes.
Pajama donkeys. That's what they are. Zebra. Anyone remember the collective noun? Lovely to see them come down and drink. One of the most striking animals we get out here. There you go, Rosemary. You are correct. The dazzle of zebra. I must admit, some of the collective nouns don't really make too much sense, but dazzle makes a bit of sense. The dazzle of zebra. They are a bit very dazzling, especially when they take a run. They just went down to drink, now heading back to the safety of the thick bush. Matthew, so your dad calls zebras disco donkeys. That's a good one. Have you ever heard of the crossbreeding of horses and zebras in the old days called zorses? Don't know how that went. I think zebras are too well adapted to carrying heavy loads on their backs like traditional use of horses and donkeys. It's lovely having this long lens. These zebras are actually across to an area that we can't get to on vehicle, but with our excellent lens and stable work by Alex, we're able to view them from a long distance. I believe all the viewers are excited to hear about my wife. I haven't chatted about her much. But an incredible woman. She's actually a better tracker than me. Also grew up in the bush, and funny story that comes to mind is talking about our dog Sharker that got nailed by the warthog recently. It's busy resting and getting his broken rib cured. He ran away from home one night, and we were very worried because there were a lot of leopard in the area that we live, and he hadn't come back for a long time, so we decided to try and track him. But dog tracks and hyena tracks look very similar, and there's a lot of hyena out there as well. So we both were on his track as he left the driveway. I had a normal headlamp and my wife had a cell phone lamp, both in our pajamas, and we both took a different track. I thought I was on his track, and I ended up tracking a hyena, and she successfully tracked and found the dog in the nighttime, barefoot, in pajamas with a cell phone torch. That's pretty hardcore. Definitely a better tracker than I am. A lucky man I am indeed. Adele, you've asked how difficult is it to track animals? Well, I suppose it varies. Sometimes it's very easy. Sometimes after the rains, when a big elephant's been walking down the road in the middle of the road on soft soil, it's very easy. You can see those big giant plate footprints from many meters away. And then when you try and track a lighter animal like a leopard over some hard and stony ground, it becomes extremely difficult, where only the experienced eye of an old hat tracker would be able to follow. But generally out here there's variations of soil types, and if you're actually trying to stick on the track of an animal, you will run into easier spots, and then you'll get harder spots where you have to slow down and really try and figure out which way it went. And a heck of a lot harder to do it at night with a cell phone light. See once again the species spending a little bit of time together. It looks like to the left there is it WILDwatch and impala, Alex. It's a bit far. Yeah. Another good example, like we were checking the impala and the warthog together. There's WILDwatch and impala with the zebra. Another good example of safety in numbers. Different species spending time together. Heidi is saying it's so lovely to see zebras again. I agree, I haven't seen them in a while. Well, they're slowly moving out of our field of view. We're going to start up and slowly start making our way back to camp. It's been lovely spending some time with them, all these herbivores. Quite an abundance of life out here. Impala, warthog, wildebeest and zebra. Shallow pigs and disco donkeys, Matthew. I like that one, I'm going to steal that. Well, let's send you over to Tristan and see if he's got any updates for us.
We're still just trying to see if we can find where Shadulu is. like I said, the car that's there is looking, trying to see if they can see her. But they don't seem to be having much luck. It's worthwhile just sticking around for a little bit. They've just turned off now. So I'm just trying to see what they can see. I wonder. VK, I think we were looking in the wrong place. Is that her there? Oof, let me go back a little bit because I see that they're looking in a different bush to where we were looking. It's not the same greenthorn. Sometimes when guys are like greenthorns, you expect a bigger one, but I don't know if we're going to get a view here. It's going to be tricky. Where they've parked is not got the clearest of views. It's pretty much straight on the drag mark. It's weird because the other way has got a clear gap at the bush itself around. The sort of area where I think she is so sort of thick from that side, but this side, there's too much bush between us and that bush, which is not ideal. So I'm just trying to see if I can get any view of her whatsoever. She'll be so well camouflaged in this though. It's that like perfect coloration for a leopard to disappear. It's got lots of varying tones and shades of greens and oranges and various colors, which will make it really tricky to see. Okay, I don't think we're going to get it right, I'm afraid. I don't think so. Shame, you can see even where she dragged it, where the dung for the poor impala came out. So there it is there. Just trying to see if I can get some sort of view. Let's try. So BK, I'm sure it's that bush. Sorry, Landeka, my earpiece is really giving me a lot of problems and I can hardly hear you. So if you can just repeat that now that I've turned off. Yeah. Shall you say that all you can hear is James saying so much bush? Exactly. James would be thoroughly entertained by what is going on here this morning. I would love to have seen his reaction to all of this and the morning that we've had. I suspect that James would have been highly irritated by now. Oh, I can't see anything. I mean, I can see the vehicle and they're looking into the bush and I'm looking into the same bush, but there is just no ways. It's too thick from our side to see anything. The good news is it's much closer to us than I thought it would be. The bad news is that there's no nice tree anywhere nearby, I'm afraid. So, I'm not sure if we are going to be able to get a view of her. Even if she did take it to a tree, she might go down into the drainage. BK, I'm going to try one more angle and then we are going to leave and carry on. Start heading home and try and press the reset button for this afternoon so that we get a slightly better, I don't know what the word would be. Better luck is probably the best way to look at it. What's that, Beaker? You can smell the carcass. Let's try from somewhere here. Nope, that's not going to work. Oh, bush, why are you this way? It's so funny to just try and figure this out, but there's no ways. No, there's no ways. We're not going to get a view of this at all. It's straight through all of this thicket. So anyway, we're going to carry on. We're going to start heading home and admit defeat. for the first time today. And while we do that, let's send you back across to David, who's on his breakfast drive home.
We are on our breakfast drive back to camp. We've exhausted our supply of snacks. Tummies are grumbling, we sound like elephants. But very sad to admit defeat. We are both admitting defeat this morning on the cat side. I know Tristan got a lot closer than I did. I've just been hoping to see a lion track. I had a little bit of a feeling the lions are going to cross over like they did yesterday and not just pass through. And I haven't seen a single solitary track. Perhaps we can make ourselves feel better and make our own. We'll try and be as realistic as possible. I'm just going to leave that there. Maybe when Tristan comes past later, he can pick it up and follow it, because I think that's about as good as we're going to do this morning on lions. What do you think, Alex? I think that's pretty realistic. Cool, well, let's move on. I'll call in this track to Tristan. Because I have failed on the lion side this morning. I really did think I was going to get a track of some sort. Yesterday they came in and came out. Gave me the slip. This morning was nothing. But the luck will change. We got an exciting afternoon coming up. JC, I believe you like my impression of a track. Very realistic. I had a friend who used to do, not like that, he used to do actual tracks with his knuckles and made them look just like leopard tracks. And he was so good, he used to do it in the camp. And in the morning, he would have all the guides tracking this leopard through the camp into the bar area and off around the back towards the rooms. When game rangers get bored, there should be a whole book on its own. We've got some more impala and wildebeest here. Some red bucks. Remember, we onto the Afrikaans this morning, and a red buck is the direct translation of rooibok. Impala is the rooibok. And the local Tsonga language that is spoken here calls these mala. These are some young rams that are still too young to assert any dominance in the mating world. They've still got a couple years to go, but not too early to start practicing their jousting. Epic clash of horns. That is so important in the male impala world. Okay, so you're loving these impalas, especially during the ratting season. They are a spectacle, aren't they? Let's spend a bit more time with them. Beautiful. Oh, it's been lovely spending lots of time with you guys this morning. Must apologize for the Ngala feed. It has been unstable, but hopefully this afternoon get to spend a bit more time over that side. Cheers, Impala. Have a lekker day. Anushka, you've asked why do impala move their heads forward before walking. It's an interesting observation. They often do move their heads forward before walking. I don't really know why that is. It's like they're showing their intent. Everything they do is intent. I'll have to think about that one. I wonder if I could hypothesize any real reason for that. They are a bouncy, kind of energetic animal, so maybe it's kind of the way a chicken walks with their heads. Apparently my mic's picking up a bit of wind, sorry for that. It has been a lovely morning. Buffalo, elephant, lots of herbivores. Some beautiful time at the dam with the hippo. All in all, a lovely, peaceful, relaxing morning out here in Djuma. As always, it's been a privilege. It's been lovely spending time with you all. Looking forward to this afternoon, and we're going to hit it again and see what we can find. Until then, that's a cheers from Alex and I.